morning.
Good morning.
I want to begin by saying this is not an insect right here. It is a microphone, and it's not normally part of what I wear. So, and I also have the habit of sticking my hand up under here, so if you see me going like that, that's what's going on. It's a pleasure to be here. I've had the opportunity to be here a number of times, and I have to tell you how impressed I am with the Church of Orange County. It's amazing to me what gets accomplished here, considering what a young diocese it is. The diocese I work in is about 150 years old, and I think you're, what, about 30 years old, something like that. And the accomplishments are considerable, but probably in the grand scheme of things, this is the biggest thing you've ever bit off to chew in the history of the diocese. And I can tell you, as someone from the Midwest and someone who travels around the country, that the world is watching. I work on a lot of projects, and somebody will say, well, what are you working on? And 9 times out of 10, they've never heard of whatever it is, you know, and I have to explain it. In this instance, there's nothing to explain. As soon as I say it, people say, oh yeah, I read this and I read that. And the response is from A to Z. There are some people who are not very optimistic about this being successful. There are other people who are very excited. But I can tell you this, the eyes of the world are on Orange County right now to see what happens. So you have people's attention, and I say that to you not to puff you up, but to tell you not to blow it, you know? You know? This is a moment to shine, and more important than for you to shine, it's a moment for the church to shine, and to really give an example of how we understand who God is, how we understand who we are, and how we understand what God asks of us. What we're going to be doing today is basically outlined up above here. We've already had the welcome and the introduction. I'm going to give you, first of all, a little presentation on liturgical spirituality. This will be kind of the heaviest part of the program. Then we'll take a break. Then the second presentation will be on cathedral design and what you have to take into consideration for that. Then we'll be take a kind of a stand-up break, and then finally we'll talk about the overall design process. And that's probably the part that most of you are eager to hear about. So to begin, when we go through all of these various things, the place we have to start is, in fact, the spirituality that underpins the whole effort. And so liturgical spirituality is the personal experience or the personal application of the theology that draws us together and gives us an understanding of what we're about here. Now, how many of you saw the LA Times article that was in the paper? I think it was last Friday. How many of you saw that? Okay. If you read that, I was quoted in various places. I was also quoted opposite a gentleman by the name of Duncan Stroik. And Duncan Stroik comes out of the Notre Dame School of Architecture, and he is very much a person who believes in the notion that the only true religious architecture is what you would call classical in the sense of historic precedent. In other words, Gothic, Byzantine, Romanesque, that sort of thing. So for him, given where he comes from, there is a great deal of question about, you know, what are they thinking? How can they take the Crystal Cathedral and turn it into a Catholic cathedral? And that's because his understanding is definitely one that has a historic bias. The other thing that he stated, and I have to comment on this, it reminds me of a joke. Do you remember the Far Side cartoons? Far Side, they were the really crazy ones with animals, very anthropomorphic. And there was a great one where two polar bears are standing next to each other, and they're looking at an igloo. And inside, right inside the doorway of the igloo, you can see some very frightened Eskimos. And the one polar bear turns to the other and he says, "Oh, this is my favorite kind, crunchy on the outside and chewy on the inside." Okay. I couldn't help think of that joke when I was reading the LA Times article, because Duncan Stroik said, you know, this thing is going to be Protestant on the outside and then hopefully Catholic on the inside. Well, I don't know what that means. I don't know what Protestant architecture is any more than I know specifically what Catholic architecture is. Architecture is architecture, okay? And I think it also is a misnomer to talk about the Crystal Cathedral as if it's somehow or other some kind of a secular place. We're going to make it Catholic. It is, in fact, a Christocentric place. The name Crystal Cathedral was not conceived of at the beginning. It's something that was simply applied to it after it was built. Kind of like the Crystal Palace was in London back in the 1800s. That wasn't the official name of it. It just got called the Crystal Palace. So make no mistake about it. The Crystal Cathedral, as it is today, is a holy place. It's a place that tells the stories of faith. It's a place that tells the story of believers. It certainly tells the story of the commitment of a man who had a vision, who, by the way, we need to pray for. He's recently been diagnosed with cancer. And it is a very special place. And for the Catholic community to have this privileged opportunity to be able to assume stewardship of it is, in fact, that. It's a privilege. It's not bailing out a group that was in hard times or something. It's a privileged opportunity. And in the grand scheme of things, you can only say that it's the action of the Holy Spirit. So I want to preface everything by saying that this is a very special time of grace. It's a time of grace for cathedral ministries because they suffer the experience of diminishment and yet have to recommit themselves to their mission. And they're having the experience that we know in theory that the church is not a building. The church is the body of believers and the ministries that flow out of that body. And so I say all that to you because the critics are weighing in and they're asking, you know, can this project be successful? And my question is, well, what's the criteria for deciding whether or not it's successful? I would beg to differ with those who say it is successful if it's aesthetically pleasing. Now, of course, we want it to be aesthetically pleasing, and we're going to do our darndest to do that, and that it will be inspirational and all those good kind of things. But ultimately, the success of this project is going to be to the extent that those who worship here, and in this case, the whole Diocese of Orange, does a better job still of caring for the widows and the orphans, caring for the sick and the imprisoned, making sure that strangers are welcomed, clothing the naked, making sure that the homeless are sheltered. If those things happen, and if they happen even more, then we can all be very proud and say that this was a highly successful project. That's the criteria. Okay?